Everybody knows who Al Capone is. He's the crime boss that everybody knows about because he was that good at what he did. He owned the city of Chicago. He took over the city with the money and muscle that came along with his illegal alcohol business. Everybody, including the police, knew that knew what he was doing, but no one could stop him. He owned the police, the politicians, everybody. He made Chicago his, and that meant that Chicago was now a war zone.
I don't have this. I said the current schedule.
The movie The Untouchables is about the people that took down Capone. The people in this movie have gotten various awards for their performances in this movie. This movie is an old action style movie where the main protagonist is Agent Ness, who's the man credited for taking down Al Capone. This movie goes through what Agent Ness and his small team had to go through to catch Al Capone and put him behind bars. This includes many people dying in the process of arresting Al Capone. This movie is very entertaining, but sadly not very accurate. There are many things that have been put into the movie to make it more likable to the general public. But there are still various things in this movie that make it somewhat historically accurate. The costumes in this movie worn by the actors are very realistic. The suits of this time period were much heavier than those of today. They also wore shorter ties and looser pants than those of which are common today. This is accurately portrayed in the movie. The movie has done a good job of showing its audience what people of this time period wore in everyday fashion. Another thing that the movie does well are the cars. The cars in this movie accurately reflect what automobiles were driven in the 30s and 40s. There are various cars shown like the Ford Model TT and the Lincoln Model L. The placement of these cars is also well done. The background of the movie, in the background of the movie, there are many cars on the street, such as the Ford Model A and the Ford Model AA. These cars are some of the less expensive models which many people could afford in the day. Also, the usage of these cars in the movie was well done. We are able to see that the gang members of Capone that Capone controlled had more expensive cars than what we were used to, showing how rich this gang really was. The guns in the movie were also very well done. Police officers held the Colt official police revolver. The members of Al Capone's gang oftentimes had the Thompson submachine gun, also known as the Tommy gun. This gun is infamous for its gang use in the 30s and 40s, and the rate of fire which it is capable of. This made it a favorite of the Al Capone gang. In the movie The Untouchables, there are various action scenes. These action scenes are what made the movie famous. There is the assassination of police officer Malone. There's the train station shootout between various members of Al Capone's gang, Agent Ness and Agent Stone. Then there's the rooftop chase between the hitman Nitty, who killed police officer Malone, and Agent Ness. Sadly, all three of these scenes never happened in real life. They were all made. All three of those scenes were fake. They might make the movie more appealing, but all three are fake. Sadly, though, those are not the only historical inaccuracies throughout the movie. For example, the raid at the Canadian border, which Agent Ness and his team uh, raid, never happened. Agent Ness and Police Officer Malone never officially met. They are connected in the movie because Agent Ness and Police Officer Malone were part of the raid team that obtained Al Capone's bookkeeper, which would later lead to his arrest and trial for tax evasion. And another thing that they failed to mention in the movie is that Al Capone fled to Miami before he was arrested. He was later arrested in Miami and brought back to Chicago to be tried and later arrested and jailed for tax evasion. This movie may be very appealing to those not wishing to learn about what happened during Al Capone's reign of Chicago, but for those who are, this is not the movie for them. This movie makes up various scenes to make the movie more appealing and does not include very important pieces of information that led to the arrest of Al Capone. The one thing that this movie does is the props included in the movie. So, unless someone is wishing to expand their knowledge of the equipment and clothes used during this time period, this is not the movie for them. Overall, this movie is very entertaining, but sadly not very historically accurate. I would not recommend this movie to anyone wishing to learn about the historical facts of what happened in Chicago and how Al Capone was taken down.